In the volatile time of the world that we're in, the word nuclear and nuclear fallout and nuclear war, all that comes to our mind. But the question is, how do we prepare for that? One thing to remember, when we talk about nuclear fallout, sometimes that could happen because of weather, it can happen because of manufacturing, of course terrorism and war, but there's so many different ways that we can see nuclear fallout. For instance, we have a power station that's not real close to us, but it's about 2 or 3 hours away. Well, if something happened with that reactor and all of a sudden nuclear fallout happened, if a major storm come through and hit some of these power plants, nuclear fallout could happen. What are things that we could do to prepare for something like that to take place? Let's talk about 10 things either you should be doing or you should have on hand just in case something like this ever happens. We have heard nuclear a lot, and it is scary. But the thing to remember is, yes, it could be huge and cause life as we know it to change, but it could be very regional. It could be a smaller exposure. So let's talk through some of these details and how, as a prepper, as someone who wants to live sustainable, how can we prepare to make sure that we're ready for anything like that to take place? None of us have really dealt with that, but we try to prepare to make sure we're ready just in case a scenario like that arises. Let's jump into it today. This video is going to go and it starts right now. Guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, and let us know what you think about this video. Now, a lot of our people that are watching our videos are not subscribed, so we would challenge you to subscribe, because remember, we give away free things all the time. We gave away 2 things in June, and as we start July, we will have a big giveaway in the mid part of July, and all it takes is you subscribing to both channels and again letting us know that you're subscribed below. So please remember to subscribe. Now, the point of this video is just in case we see nuclear fallout, nuclear war, anything like that takes place, weather causes a nuclear reaction to have issues, things like that can take place. Let's talk about 10 things that we should be doing or 10 things that we should have on hand. And you need to compile a list that's best for you. Now, some of these things, again, won't help you, but some of these things will help you. So let's jump into this list. Number 1 is a Geiger counter. Now, we bought this simply off Amazon. You could probably pick it up anywhere online, but it allows you to see the exposure levels of radiation. We have the one that's not digital. It kind of uses the little meter, but there's some that are digital that are more expensive, but you need to pick up a Geiger counter. Most of the time you can pick these up for anywhere from 40 to 60 bucks. It's not a lot of money, but it allows you to know that, okay, if something like this takes place, even if it's not really close to us, we could take that Geiger counter, we can see what the exposure levels are. As things get close, as we worried about a cloud or fallout happening, it allows us to say, okay, how can we prepare for it? Or are we even in that level that we should be concerned about? So a Geiger counter would be number 1, because it allows you to know what exposure level am I getting, or am I even exposed? It'd be a good investment to have. Number 2 would be a respirator. Now, we have 2 forms of respiration here. We have the simple mask, kind of like an N95, but a little bit more souped up version of that. That will allow you to hopefully get through any kind of little simple exposure. But when it comes down to worry, you're really seeing a fallout that's close to you, I would challenge you to buy a true respirator. We have the full face mask with the filters. You need to look at things like the NBC filters. You need to look at the masks that are formulated and the filters that are formulated for nuclear fallout filtration. There are ones specific to that. Now, if you pick up any little mask that's got some kind of filters on it, most of the time you're thinking of paint and overspray and things like that. I'm not saying those would not be good to have as a just in case, but don't depend on them with your livelihood. So I would challenge you to look at the respirators that will cost you more, but that has the filters made for nuclear fallout. This would be something really good to have. Now that rolls right into number 3 is a hazmat suit. We all have a Tyvek style hazmat suit that can basically cover our body just in case. Now I know that's a little preparatory, and a lot of people say that's a little too much, but it's one of those things, again, for me and my family, we look at every opportunity to make sure that we're protected. Now, are we protected if all of a sudden a nuclear bomb goes off in America and it takes out half the United States? That's a totally different scenario. If we're worried about a smaller regional reactor going bad, or a smaller terrorist attack, that's things you got to think about. And I know you don't want to think about them, because as a prepper, I'm kind of weird and I think about these kind of things. So having a respirator for number 2 with some kind of good filtration system, again, NBC filters are ones that are made for nuclear reaction. And then number 3, having the Tyvek suit or the hazmat suit, Both of those will help repel any kind of damage to your skin or to anything that you have on. It's a covering. Hazmat suits can get pricey, but again, if you buy them online, sometimes you can find a good deal. Make sure they're highly rated and been tested. But that would be good number 2 and 3.5. Number 4 would be potassium iodide tablets. Now, I would challenge you to do your own research, but one thing about potassium iodide, taking those pills or having the droplets, it comes in several different forms. It allows you to keep your body safe. I think it helps your thyroid not take in some of that exposure into your body. So do your own research. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell you to take this medicine. Have that medicine on hand just in case. We have a few bottles, and also we have the liquid form too. We want to make sure that we are prepared for sure, and potassium iodide is a good thing to have. Usually you could pick this up 10-15 bucks, maybe 20 or 30 bucks for the liquid or the more stronger versions, but it's like little supplement tablets. It would be very good to have. That also rolls into number 5. We have activated charcoal. We've talked about powdered activated charcoal. I know sometimes they're in pill form too. We like the powder. Activated charcoal helps rid toxins of our body. Now, do we know that that would help us with a nuclear fallout? We don't know. I don't want to test it, but it's one of those things that studies show that it is good for our bodies to get toxins out if all of a sudden we are exposed. So look at potassium iodide tablets and look at activated charcoal powder. Again, very economical to pick up. You can put all these things in one container. That's what we do. We have a nuclear bug out that says, okay, if I know this is the risk, this is the bucket I need, and all these things are in it, and it's really good to have. Number 6 would be having a change of clothes, brand new clothes that is vacuum sealed in a Mylar bag. We have, every one of our family members has that. Why do we have that, and what's the importance of it? Again, say we're exposed, say our t-shirts are exposed, say our home is exposed. We can't see all the things that are going on in our air. Say our Geiger counter is going off. Well, that means everything in our home is exposed. Well, we need to get to safety. We have a respirator on or whatever it is, or the hazmat suit. But wherever we go with clothing that we had on will be exposed. So we have just some economic, cheap clothes that we have basically vacuum sealed into these packs, and we have those in that supply. That's from undergarments to full wear to make sure we have everything that we need. It's a change of clothes that has not been exposed. And when you have it in a vacuum sealed Mylar bag, it allows it to be sealed away from any exposure that it takes. So have an extra set of clothes and undergarments and everything you need to be safe, because if you ever have to open that up, that clothing on, you have something that was never exposed, never in those elements, and now that you're far away, you can change, get rid of that, bathe your body, and make sure you're taking all the exposure off. But having a new set of clothes that has been vacuum sealed is a good practice to have. Number 7 is an eye wash kit. Now they sell these again online to where you can literally just put right under your eye, kind of squeeze it, and it kind of goes and washes your eyes out. Sometimes it happens and you don't have your respirator and you have to get home to make sure that you're safe and not exposed. Well, it allows you to know that you can clean your body, but also kind of get your eyes clean, your nose clean, your mouth clean. So you need to focus on those things. Well, eye wash is pretty easy because again, you can put your eye over it, spray it. Now, there are some more expensive ones that has like a whole setup and you can put in your home. That's awesome. But for me, I like to know that I could travel and get away if I ever had to. They make these little, it almost looks like a, I milk cows, so if you ever see like a pre-dip kit, they also kind of have an eye wash thing, kind of like it, where it's just you kind of squeeze it, kind of goes in your eye and helps clean that out. Now, all these things that we're talking about, I don't want to use any of them. I don't want to have to use any of this. But in the world we live in with the volatility and we're looking at ways to help our grid with more energy, things like nuclear power, we have to remember that we're finite and we live in a world that has catastrophic events or has war. So talking about this stuff is not fun. Having this stuff is kind of creepy because I don't want to ever use it. I want to have it though as an insurance. Eye wash would be really good to have in this box. Number 8 would be books and resources and survival guides. If nuclear fallout happens, either with war or with some kind of power plant issue, it's going to cause electrical grid issues. You may lose power. You may be without power. You may not even have power, because if some kind of fallout happens, remember, it will cause maybe even an EMP or a solar flare. You could lose power for an infinite amount of time. Well, if we depend on our phones and we depend on our information that we're getting digitally or through the grid, then we're going to be kind of a sitting duck. We won't know what we need. We won't know what's going on. We won't know how to prepare. So having some kind of survival books, having some kind of plans, some guides would be good. I challenge you, a free resource. Go start finding free resources, and you can find them online. You can find them on Pinterest. You can find them all over. Download those and then print them off and have those in your possession in that little box or in your little bag or in your car to be able to utilize if you ever got to that point. It would be very nice to have some written documentation so you're not dependent on the grid or dependent digitally, because it may not be available. Also, we can't stress enough books, and we talk about foraging books. We talk about vegetable books. That's good. But remember, if you can't do some of those things outside, then you may need other books like how to survive, how to grow food indoors, how to use grow lights. There's different books for different topics. And again, it depends on where you live and what kind of exposure you're having. But having a resource library in written form and in book form is a good thing to have, because we cannot depend on just the grid. Number 9. Now, again, we don't know if the radio waves would work. Some frequencies will work. I know Elon Musk came out and said if we had a solar flare or EMP, that some of his internet satellites, his capabilities with Starlink would still work. Again, we don't know that. But if nuclear fallout happens in some regions, we need to know how to get information. So I would look towards solar radios. I would look towards crank radios. I would look towards some kind of satellite radio. I look for capabilities of understanding ham radios and CBs, having a different frequency-minded way to get information. Our phones will probably be the first to go. Our computers will be the first to go. Having TV and watching what goes on may be the first to go if we don't have the grid. So we have to look at supplemental ways, and it kind of goes back in old school ways, how they push frequency across sound waves or radio waves to get to you. Now, will they work? I don't know. I have a crank radio, a CB radio, a ham radio. Also have a satellite radio. Now, all those may not work, so then I go back to my resources and my survival guides. But if I have a way to try to get that information in some form or fashion with AM radio or with some kind of different frequency, or lo and behold, it may be a regional thing, and also we can still get information from some form of communication, that's a good thing. I would challenge you to have some of these options there. Maybe go to a ham radio class for a day. Maybe pick up a CB and learn how to utilize it. Maybe have just a simple crank radio. I love crank radios. They're dirt cheap, and you can, again, pick them up online. They could be to you in 2 days. Having some form of communication, just in case when all of a sudden you're using your information, you're using your resources, but maybe you need to get a little bit more information without having to leave wherever you're at. Remember, it would be very, very dangerous, not only for the exposure levels of nuclear fallout, but if all of a sudden an EMP or something like that takes place, people will go loco and crazy if they're even alive. So it's one of those situations. By having a radio, it allows you to stay home or stay wherever you're at and maybe get some of that information and get through a very trying time in America. Number 10 would be a solar generator or a battery operated generator. Now, we've talked about this in a lot of videos, but again, we're looking for alternative energy to give us what we're needing. Maybe we're having to cook, maybe we're having to boil. It goes without saying, I didn't mention food in this top 10, because food and water and filtration of water and having stockpiled food, we've talked about that in tons of videos. That's a for sure thing. You should already have that stockpiled for any situation. So we're not using food and water as the key for this list, but you should already assume that you have those. But number 10 would be the solar generator, because you have to have a way to get alternative energy. Now, maybe you have solar panels. Guess what? They may have been hurt through any kind of nuclear fallout, or they could have been hurt through an EMP or a solar flare. So therefore, what do you rely on? Well, if you have an option like I'm talking about, a portable solar generator, a portable battery bank, then you could take that battery bank, hook solar to it, get out there and get as much sun as you can, and that way it's movable. It's not getting direct access to stay on your roof. It's not dealing with the elements all the time. It's just getting just what it needs. Now, that may not work. It may be dark. We may not be having sun at that time. Well, you should have a charged up solar battery bank. So we keep 2 battery banks fully charged. One has 5,000 watts, one has 2,500 watts. Those are good to have. Now we have other generators and we have other solar options, but when I talk about just having stuff on the go that I can grab and to put in my vehicle because we're worried about nuclear fallout, or we're needing just a little energy to get us through some situation, these solar battery banks are phenomenal. I have a Pecron, I have a Blue Eddy, I've looked at the EcoFlow. I mean, I've looked at all of them. There's a million of them online. There really is, and there's tons of companies. Most of them are not made in America. That's the sad thing, but you can order them online and to have in your stockpile. Have the portable solar panels too, where you can literally fold out and utilize. One thing is good about this, so say you had to leave your home, this little generator is a battery bank. It's got battery, but here's what's cool is when you need the sun, or if you get in a safe area and you're not exposed, then you can lay it out, be able to get the sun you're needing, charge up the energy, and then you have a form of alternative energy right there at your beck and call, just in case. So these are just 10 things that you should have on hand, or 10 things you should be doing just in case. Trust me, this is the one insurance that I really don't want, saying, hey, I gotta prepare for nuclear fallout. But we live in a very scary world. Now, there's been times in our history where we've worried about nuclear fallout, even in the 80s with the Cold War and even earlier. So we have had times where that thought pattern come across our mind. Well, now in our digital world, we can get prepared even more because we can buy things online, we can see the information that we're needing, and we can literally put everything in one little container, one little plastic container from Walmart or some big box store that you can put up and just put on the outside just in case fallout. And it's all the stuff that you're needing. It'll all fit in there, and that way, just in case you need it, you have it. Now, it goes without saying again, food and water you should have. You should also have some kind of self-defense tools, because you never know what kind of situation you're gonna run into or who you're gonna run into, because people will always panic in any situation like this. Also, you need to make sure that you are covering up your doors, your windows with a lot of towels, a lot of sheets, having duct tape. Those things, again, we've talked about in other videos. It kind of goes without saying, that's just good preparedness. But when it comes to just the simple, hey, I've got a fallout situation, I need 10 items, this would be a good list of 10 items and things to do to get prepared, just in case scenario for nuclear fallout. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps. Let us know what other videos and ideas that you want to see. We're thinking about doing another Preppers Pantry tour. Also thinking about taking our other channel and doing some more vlogs on our farm, doing some more tours there. So let us know if you're interested in seeing some of that on this channel. Also, we've talked about doing a vlog on my morning routine with how I do my farm chores, what I typically do. If you're interested in that, let me know. If you want to know more about money, the way I do my finances, let me know below. We are really trying to grow our channel and make sure it's giving the information that you are wishing to have, and it's not just entertainment. We want it to be wisdom-seeking, thought-provoking, great information. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.